what will lead to illness will not be allowed. And that we should do for ourselves. So it means that in all areas, that is the same situation. If you have naming ceremony, it's the same. If you have burials, it's the same. Only the essential people will go and do it. Anybody who comes, safe distancing, and you pay your respect. You can do it by phone. People will understand that you are concerned. So we must develop a new culture of protecting people. And that is all that is required. With one mind, one vision, we should be able to handle the problem.
Okay, I have a question. My name is Bindindal and I work for ABTV. We've had a lot of regulations being announced, and you see a lot of lapses also in the side of the government. We've heard a lot of scenarios where some people are being tested and still they sit in their homes. They are already tested positive of the virus and still they are with their families. They are not picked up. We've also had scenarios where there are people also equally whom you know are violating the rights of those people who are already been tested because they are not having the treatment that they deserve. We've also equally had where people are, where the health ministry are announcing figures that are not accurate. What is the National Assembly, especially the committee that is, let's say the health committee, are they making a total follow-up when it comes to these situations to make sure all the people are protected and then to make sure the ministry are telling us the truth? Because a lot of people are complaining of the death figures, the ministry are not reporting the correct figures of death, and not also equally reporting the correct figures of people infected. So I don't know whether the department that is the committee in the National Assembly is responsible for these things. What are they doing towards this?
Well, thank you very much. I think this is why it is important to have this interaction. I must say there has been a breakdown in the whole machinery of the National Assembly to deal with COVID-19. Once the 45 days was rejected, the minister was not willing anymore to come to the National Assembly because they can get their 21 days and you are asking them for 21 days. They can get 21 days without proper monitoring from the National Assembly. So it means that what you are saying has proven that what we did was not the best thing. But it's not a blame game. This is a learning process. Not everybody understands the standing orders, the regulations, the constitution. We are all helping each other to situate our powers so that we do not abuse our powers. So what is important, as you have said, rightly said, is that the National Assembly should be engaged. When they come up with a declaration, a proclamation, the National Assembly accepts it to extend, and once it extends, then all regulations must be affirmed. And the regulation must continue to be monitored. We can do so. But if we do not accompany the process, then there is distrust on all sides, and we don't work as a team. But now we can work as a team. And if you can work as a team, it means that what you have mentioned, you've mentioned certain people who should be kept, that information will come. Anybody can write a petition to the National Assembly and it will be referred to the relevant committee and investigation will be done immediately to ensure that you deal with the problem. It means that the health authority will be called A, B, and C, all the information divulged, and they must do something about it. It's a matter of must. The power is there to make them do what they're supposed to do. So all the things you've mentioned is something that the committees could do something about by engaging the health authorities, because when they operate as a committee, they operate like a high court as far as calling witnesses and calling for evidence. By force, you must come. So that power is in the hands of the National Assembly. So there is no doubt that if we reset the stage and get each actor to act in its right place, I am sure that we'll be able to reverse the process very soon. And I would think that the executive, in fact, instead of making new blunders in terms of declaration and time to declare and lapsing, because all that is risky. You keep on declaring and it lapses. I think you can remember I even made a motion for the Vice President to come and answer to the National Assembly and explain the situation of the state of emergencies, because there were some elements of irregularity from our own perception, though we cannot say it unless we engage them, and it would have been evident from the engagement what they were relying on. So whilst we thought something was irregular, we had to engage them to prove that it was irregular. But unfortunately, because of our own arrangements in the National Assembly, some were talking about president coming, some vice president coming. So eventually, we did not even go on with our own motion to engage the state. And instead, they came to request for extension again, which we did not even allow the debate to start, not to talk about extending it. So we need to reverse all those processes and help the nation to move forward.
Thank you, Honorable. During your speech here, I captured two key important things that I want you to emphasize, because we have been following the debate in the National Assembly, and most of these members that have voted against the state of emergency, when you ask them, they will tell you that we vote against you cannot just implement or vote for something that will not be implemented. But during your press conference, you said that the state of emergency is just an alarm that a situation emerged in the Gambia, and that needs a state of emergency. It's just a form of alarming that a threat is heading the country. But what is key is the regulation, and the regulation must come to the National Assembly, for it to vet whether it is justifiable before it will be implemented, which means that the National Assembly has a take. So meaning that you can accept the threat that is coming, yes, and declare a state of emergency, but the whole everything is in the regulation. But it looks like there's a confusion here between National Assembly members. What is a state of emergency? For them, rejecting this means that, because the regulations were not enforced. Why they are two different things? And I want you to say that.
I think this matter is very clear that a state of emergency on the Constitution has nothing to do with measures. It's a life-threatening situation exists in the Gambia, full stop. And if from any other National Assembly member, anything different, make sure that we share the same podium and debate about it. That is important, because people sometimes they know the truth and then they want to cover the truth. And the only way to unearth that they're covering the truth is to bring them to the forum. So I would advise all media houses that if you are interviewing any National Assembly member who says that a state of emergency means more than a declaration that a life-threatening situation exists in the Gambia, then invite me and that particular person. So we quote the constitutional provision that says what the person says and what I say. I am saying under Section 34 of the Constitution, the state of emergency declaration is simply acknowledging that a life-threatening situation may exist or it exists. And on the basis of those two grounds, you can declare a state of emergency. Now, after declaration of the state of emergency, you are empowered under Section 35 of the Constitution to rely on an act. And that act is the Emergency Powers Act. And the Emergency Powers Act empowered the President to create regulations, and that's why we have these regulations. But Section 35 says that the regulations, the measures must be reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. Who is going to check that? Is the National Assembly. Because the National Assembly must affirm. If it extends, it also affirms. And by that affirmation, it must check the regulation. And any reasonable society, it should make sure that it is invoked. But you do not have power to check the regulation and say, well, I will not support. That the executive, after taking public funds, does what is required. I think, many members were just, I think it's more inexperience rather than real desire to sabotage a process as some people are trying to make it. I think it's literally inexperience because, and I believe all media houses should really engage that committee and my very self so that we explain that process. Many things happen there which people are still distorting, and we cannot clarify because we have to state what our standing orders say, what they were trying to do. You can see even some people try to bring another motion, and they were told that you cannot bring a motion on something that had already been decided. All this is, I will say, there has been a lot of inexperience, and nobody can blame for inexperience. But if one wants to persist in that inexperience and try to legitimize it, then that's dishonesty, and no one should accept dishonesty. And I'm willing to dishonesty.
If there's no comment, just because you mentioned where it's not where you guys, the Vice President will come and answer in regards to this COVID-19 and the declaration that he made. And it has been, since that day, we didn't see any rumors and speculation have been going that you guys rely on the role section, that's why it will not fall on the President or the Vice President will come and answer. But it's rather you guys will rely on a section that you left behind by calling the President himself, but you rather call on the Vice President to come and answer. This is why.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Whoever this, invite that person and my very self. Let's not get into some of this thing that I'm begging you. I consider them trivialities. People trying to show that they may not have knowledge about. They may not. Invite them. Whoever you think has made these statements, I'm challenging the media. Invite them. Look at those issues. But I know that I made the motion, but I did not proceed to make a motion for the Vice President to come because I had she wanted to make a motion for the President, to come, and I said, well, let's see what that motion, because I have not seen anywhere in the Constitution to come to the National Assembly. It does not exist. It's out of his own volition. But if he has to come to the National Assembly, or she, whoever the President is, the Vice President in the National Assembly. Now, the issue of motion of a state of emergency, there are a lot of debates on who should bring a motion. It is the Vice President, etc. People to the forum, and then we debate it. Then you will know the truth.
Then I think that would be the end of the background.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.